and welcome to the Creative Constitution podcast for another episode. Today's episode is all about
crippling self-doubt in the creative sphere.
Yes.
Or empowering self-doubt, or useful self-doubt, or terrible self-doubt. So many things. It's one thing, but it can be so many things to a creative.
That's true. Well, it's all about sharing your work online. It's a very, very daunting experience. Something that can be quite crippling for a lot of us, myself included. I feel very shy about sharing my work. You know, like for example, when we put Infinitely More Important, our short film, the first one,
the first thing we ever did.
That was very daunting to me, especially because it was my first piece of work as a director. I was very shy about it because I knew the quality wasn't nearly what Netflix provides or all those streaming services that have millions of dollars at their fingertips. And I felt very, very shy about that. And I had a lot of self-doubt in that moment. So pressing that publish button was really tough to me. It's tough.
Okay, so how did you deal with that? I'm a psychiatrist right here. So how do you feel about that? Except I don't pay you $300 an hour. You don't pay me $300 an hour to just ask that one question.
Yeah. How did I deal with that? That was tough. I think I had to remember that the work needs to be shared either way, and it is a stepping stone towards something bigger. And I think you and I had a lot of conversations about what the film was like, and you had to remind me a few times that it was good, because sometimes I get very in my head about things and I sort of think about it negatively, and I just don't really think it's that good if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So to me, I had to really come to terms with the fact that it wasn't going to be perfect, and that's okay.
It will never be perfect. Guys, it will never be perfect. And even your best work won't be perfect. It'll be one potential alternate universe version of that one piece of your best work. But how do we even get to that best work? We have to put out a lot of stuff. And It starts with the first thing you put out. And the first thing you put out is usually going to be kind of crappy. Even if you put everything into it, even if you put money into it, time, passion. If you're doing your thing and you're in your creative sphere, whether it's your first film dance choreography thing, you're submitting to a dance college to get in at your first audition or something, or it's your first single that you're releasing publicly, a music, a song, an instrumental, whatever, or it's your first short film, or even if it's your first acting show reel, it's not going to be the best. But guess what? You got to put it out, because everyone who is the best, all the greats that you probably look up to in your creative sphere, whether it's a crazy famous musician or an amazing A-list actor, their first show reel was terrible. Their first audition was pretty bloody average. And their first single or demo that they recorded of an original song at home wasn't very good either, but they kept at it. And the only way you're ever going to get good stuff that you're proud of, and that self-doubt will diminish over time, is by having a lot of it to start with and putting out the stuff so that you get to a better stage, and you just got to do it. Exactly.
You got to start as well. I think a great example is this podcast. We could have easily just waited until we had the best gear, and then, we had the best microphones, the best editing equipment, the best cameras, the best topics, maybe even better public speaking skills. And our first podcast probably wasn't that good.
But you level up.
I remember some of our podcasts in the early days were blurry and the sound was bad, and we just kept improving, and now we have a collection that we can be proud of. But that first one was tough to press publish on, because that was us taking a risk.
Yeah.
Same with that short film that I published. It ended up being viewed like thousands of times by different people, and we had very good feedback, and people loved it in the end. And that reminded me that actually it's okay to start with something that you're not super proud of, super happy with. At least you're doing something. It's 99% better than not posting at all.
Yeah, you're doing something. And that's what it's all about, guys. I think you're always going to have a form of crippling self-doubt. Even the people who have made it and who have gone through all the slogging it out for years to build a reputation in the film sphere or the music sphere, they're still going to put work out that they're never 100% happy with. There's always going to be some doubt that after publishing that or putting that, watch any interview with a big celebrity. Like, we're not saying anything new here. This is known. This is known. So it's going to happen, and that's okay. And some days you will feel like, oh, you've wasted months of your life on this project and you're worthless and everything's crap. And all your effort was for nothing. And you're worth nothing, and this is worth nothing, and nobody likes you or your movie or your song or anything. And you'll feel terrible. And that might last a day. It might last a month. Guess what? Get over it. Welcome to being a creative. Unfortunately, that comes with the territory. You take that on your shoulders when you're trying to create great things, big things, incredible things. That's all part of it. And you just slog through because you know a better day will come.
Yeah.
And that self-doubt will subside eventually, or it will be smaller over time, or you'll just learn how to deal with it better and make cool shit anyway and put it out into the world and give the world what you've got to offer.
I think creatives, they wear their hearts on their sleeves. And I never understood really what that meant until I became a creative and I started creating things for the first time, really. Because before I became a creative, I wasn't really painting and taking photos and drawing or even dancing or even things like that I would put out into the world. I lived a very sort of, serious life that was not even very public. Like, I didn't really like using social media. I didn't really want to put myself out there in the public eye and be judged and be looked at and be questioned for what I did. And so when I started making films with you and we started acting in things, oh gosh, it was scary, first of all. It was very, very scary. And I never really understood what you went through when you were posting all your music clips and you singing and taking TikTok videos and like all that stuff. And I just took it for granted. Like, I really just would look at that and be like, it's so easy. Just do it. Just press post, just why don't you take like 10 clips of you singing today and just post it? And it's so
I was like,
hard.
it doesn't work that way.
It's really
I've
hard.
got to be right up here. And then this has got to be working, and then I've got to feel good as well.
Yeah.
And it's got to, you've got to actually practice it. Yeah.
But also it's
so
just
much.
that judgment. Like,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that holds people back, and that was myself included, and I still feel, I don't know if it's shame, but just like the fear of being judged and seen the wrong way is something that always sort of holds me back a bit.
And something being so important to you, something that's come
right.
from your heart, that you've put all this sort of your soul into creating. It's not like you're tradie and you're banging a chair together with some nails and a thing. You're not on a conveyor belt building a phone at an Apple factory or something. This is something that's come from you. It's taken magic. It's taken part of your heart, your soul, your mind, your experiences, and you've created this thing and tried to put it out to the world as a gift, as an offering, and hopefully connect to other people through that. That's your way of expressing yourself and connecting to others. It's what you've got to offer the world.
Yes.
And then some people don't want to connect to that, or they say everything you are and what you've put out there is rubbish. I don't like it, and you're terrible. Then you can let that hurt you if you want to. You can let that hold you back, or you can say, you know what, that's always going to be the case, because that's the mantle we take up when we want to be a creative and create things. And that's always going to be the case. And so you've sort of just got to deal with it, right?
I think another thing as well is just, I think we assumed that people are going to hate our work. I think that's the baseline.
Yeah. There's always a part of you that thinks what you're putting out is terrible and you're worthless as a creator.
That's right. It's really tough to explain as well, where I think if you're a creative and you're creating something, I don't know why it is that we assume that people are not going to like it. which is why we hold ourselves back and we
Yeah.
play it safe and we stay in our box. Because if you are striking out of that box in that little frame that society has painted for you, and you're taking chances, you're creating something new, creating something visionary and unique, it's always going to get criticized and judged in some way, shape, or form.
Something that's polarizing artistically
That's
is
right.
always going to be up for either the greatest fans and the greatest lovers, or the greatest, hate and hit back, or whatever they call it.
And that can be really hard to come to terms with. And so I totally understand why someone would hold back in that position. I mean, I've definitely been there too. Even just recently, I was working on Devoured, our short film that we filmed earlier this year, last year now, and there were days where I would ping pong between this is an amazing film to this is so shit.
Yeah.
And I would literally just in my brain be like, I don't know if anyone can see this. I don't know if anyone can watch this and like it. Oh, this isn't anything like what's out there at the moment. But then there are days when we would watch it again and we'd be like, oh my gosh, we're onto something great. This is a masterpiece. This is something unique and different, and it's going to blow people away. And I couldn't understand why, as a creative, you can ping pong so far between these two extremes. But it makes sense because you wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah.
And that work is driven by passion.
And it's you. It's part of you.
It's you, exactly.
So
you are being judged.
Yeah, your self-worth is automatically attached to the work that you're putting out there to the world. And so if that's sort of ignored or not looked at with any interest or hated on by a majority of people, that's going to be, even if you have a tough skin, it's still going to be exhausting, because it's like, man, when am I going to catch a break? I'm doing all this amazing stuff. And I think it's important to just keep going, right? Because there's so much content out there now, like on YouTube, on Spotify, music, films, games, everything. There is so much content, and there's a lot of amazing stuff, and there's so many amazing creators. And now has never been an easier time in human history than to create amazing stuff with ease and put it out in front of as many people as possible. Like, now is the easiest time to do that. It's the easiest time to create your stuff and push it out there and get eyes on it. It's never been easier in human history before. The thing is, that has led to such a hypersaturation of content in all creative spheres. And there is so much amazing stuff out there, but there is so much garbage out there. There is so much garbage that is just poor quality. It's people that haven't dedicated their life to build these skills and talents and create great quality works for others to enjoy. It's just people that are jumping on bandwagons and people that aren't actually creative. So you are doing a disservice. If you have passion, if you know this is what your life is meant to be, you're meant to be creating films, you're meant to be writing film scripts, you're meant to be playing piano instrumentals and publishing that on a Spotify page, artist page. You owe it not only to yourself, but to the world to put this stuff out. Don't get discouraged. Don't let that crippling self-doubt hold you back, because it could be all someone needs one day, and they discover that piece of art and that makes their day and they love it. And there is so much good stuff that you can do with that. So put it out.
I think we have to remember that before social media, we only really looked at the people that we were able to touch within our circles. These days, it's like if your videos don't get thousands of views, it means it's not good enough. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. For example, when I showed my short film to one person, they cried and could relate to it. And they were like, this is my story. How did you get my story right? I'm just like, well, I based it off my own life and what I went through, and I put my heart and my soul into it. And it really was something that made me realize the power of making content and making a film, and that I actually got way better satisfaction as a creative from just hearing that one person's feedback
Yeah.
than to potentially see something that's got 1 million views in something that I've created, but then I don't get that same sort of, comments,
Yes.
feeling from someone directly in my circle. And we put too much value on like the things that go viral instead of the things that took so long but only get 20 views. It's really annoying to me personally, and you don't get that acknowledgement from the world to say, hey, this is good, but you don't need the world to acknowledge it. You just need maybe a couple people.
Yeah.
Maybe just one person that goes, this is great.
Yeah, maybe that project that you create painstakingly connects with 4 people, but it changes their life or it improves their day for the better. For that moment, they feel like they're not alone, that someone gets them. That song's exactly what they needed. Or that short film was, the story of they feel represented.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't have 1 million views or never gets 1 million views. You have to put your stuff out there and you have to just keep going for it.
What has been your biggest thing that's helped you conquer that self-doubt when, you're putting your songs on the line?
Okay, well, big twist. I haven't, and I probably never will. And that's okay. That's okay, guys. If you're in the creative sphere, some days you're going to feel worthless. You're going to feel inferior. You're going to feel like no one cares and no one likes what you're putting out. And then other days you're going to go, I'm the best songwriter in the world. This is friggin' genius. Man, when I find my niche of like hardcore fans, I'm going to have a cult following. I'm going to perform here, rule the world. My film's going to get all these awards in Cannes Film Fest. Like, you can pinball. You can pinball. And that's what's going to happen. And that's okay. Enjoy what you create. Do the best you can. Don't get too upset and keep working and keep putting your passion into what you create and giving it to the world.
Self-doubt is a human experience.
Yeah.
I think it's probably just, our natural instinct to try and protect ourselves from danger and being judged and all of that. It's something that probably is something that everyone tackles at some point in their lives.
Just lives with.
I know that some of the biggest celebrities that we look up to in the creative sphere, whether they're directors, actors, cinematographers, composers, they've all dealt with this. And I'm sure that they still do.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to ever get over my self-doubt, but I know that I'm getting better at dealing with it and just not overthinking the posting process and just being proud of what I create. And if it's not to the best quality that it can possibly be, then that's okay, because it serves as a stepping stone to something bigger and better. And it gives me time to reflect. And I know sometimes it can be hard to like show weakness. We just have to accept that is also part of the journey. And the people that you see on Instagram, how about scroll all the way down, see where they started?
Yeah.
Those first few posts probably were the hardest to them, and now it's become almost like a habitual thing.
Yeah.
So then the self-doubt almost gets out of the equation, because with speed as well, I think with if you create more faster, I think the self-doubt just doesn't even have time to come up to the surface.
Yeah, okay. And also we could look at it as a tool. So it's something negative that we're constantly juggling and dealing with and living through. And I don't think we'll ever, as creatives, ever really get rid of it. But maybe that's a positive, right? Because imagine this creator that gets so up there in success and popularity, and all their self-doubt disappears. And so they literally just create anything now. And they don't care. And they're just putting out all this stuff with no effort, because they never doubt anything. They never analyze or, I don't know, maybe I should go back and fix this, or I'm not sure, maybe I should work on this part again. They're just making stuff. I'm happy all the time. I'm just making all this stuff. And maybe that stuff is losing quality, or it's not very good, because there isn't that sort of thing that's gone into it of having to analyze and having a bit of doubt. So maybe it can be used as a tool. Maybe it's not all bad having it. Maybe if we didn't have it, we'd be worse off. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that's a good point. I think yeah, in a way, it helps you because it makes you look at your work in a different light as well. I think if you have no self-doubt about something that you create, maybe your heart wasn't in it enough. It's also an alternative view to look at.
True.
Because I think one of the reasons why I get self-doubt is because I've put a part of myself in it.
Yeah.
And the possibility of someone going, this is not great, like this is not good. Are you even a good director? Are you even a good actor? That hurts me personally because I put myself on the line and I put my own work and my own energy and if I didn't have any self-doubt and I was just sort of like real cocky about it and I just posted whatever and I didn't care about it, then I don't think I challenged myself hard enough.
Wow, well said. That's a super wise insight. That's so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear what you guys think at home as well, because we are building a community here on the Creative Constitution podcast. And we understand that this is something that pretty much everyone listening or watching right now will deal with at some point.
Yeah.
And hopefully this chat sort of brings it to a level where it's okay. And you sort of don't feel so alone. And even in those overwhelming times of publishing that work and being okay with that, and that, yeah, you can soldier through it and you're not alone and it'll be all right. And you owe it to the world to stay strong and keep putting stuff out and keep creating.
Yeah, that's right. Tag us in there and then we'll share your work as well.
Yeah, we'd love to share your story as well.
Good luck to you and make sure you keep sharing your work with the world. As Jazz said, it's a disservice to the world and to yourself to just keep your stuff hidden. Share your talents.
And you're never going to get to that amazing level of work unless you start somewhere. You got to put out that first little crappy project first.
That's right.
You got to just rip the Band-Aid off.
I love it.
We hope you got something out of this talk, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you
in the next one.